Head back to our Tennessee GOP Chair guest, Scott Golden, joining us now via Zoom. Scott, good to have you on board tonight. I wanted to ask you about the tone of the U.S. Senate race. It's gained national attention just because it has been so contentious and bitter. Is this the new tone of the Republican Party in Tennessee?
So you guys can hear me okay now?
We sure can, yes.
Great. So what I was saying earlier is somebody mentioned it that, ultimately whoever wins this nomination tonight is likely to go on to go to Washington in November. So when you have those types of stakes that are in play, you're going to have some pretty fierce competition. And COVID has made what is usually a year-long process kind of compressed it down into 6 weeks. So it went really quick. Usually this stuff has a little bit longer drawn out, but I think with just the world that we're living in and how these campaigns are, it just got really intense really quick. But I think starting tomorrow you'll see a whole lot of folks come together and recognize that we've got to put a Republican to replace Senator Alexander.
And are you surprised at how strong a showing that Dr. Manny Sethi has made here? That the one public poll we saw, he was a few points behind Bill Hagerty, but it was within the margin of error, Scott.
Yeah, Dr. Sethi has worked very hard across the state, has a lot of support, and even with everything that was shut down for better part of 100 days, he's worked very hard. His campaign has worked very hard. They had a great plan. I mean, look, this, as I said, I'm the only person in the state that has to remain neutral by being chairman, and I have adored the entire field. All of them have worked very hard, running from Memphis to Mountain City, trying to meet as many voters as they can under incredibly unusual circumstances. And clearly tonight people responded to Dr. Sethi and Ambassador Hagerty, and it's going to be. I think we may be here for a little while.
Yeah, we're going to wait and keep a close eye, Scott, on those numbers. And let's bring in Pat Nolan. Pat, you have any questions for Scott?
Scott, you've got a race going on up in the first congressional district. You got a multiple number of candidates up there, I think well into the double digits. I've looked at some of the polling up there. You've got a bunch of people right up at the top, but nobody's above 20%. Is it time for the state to look at some runoff provisions? Do you want your party nominee to be selected by the majority of your party, or just by a small minority of your party to make your nominee selections?
Pat, that is a great question. Obviously the laws have been this way in Tennessee for a very long time. Somebody was telling me earlier that Congressman Jenkins was elected with about 18% of the vote when he ran in a big field back in 1996. David Davis, Congressman Rowe now were both elected with right at, they were both in the 20s in 2006 when they ran, when Congressman Jenkins retired. So again, when you're talking about the first district of Tennessee, which has been Republican since Abraham Lincoln, there's never been a Democrat hold that seat. You're going to have these gigantic fields. And I think the number that we finished at was somewhere between 16 and 17. I have been told that they would be surprised if they get 20% of the vote wins that. So, look, that's a question of the legislature if they would like to change the laws. But I think with the number of candidates that are running for these offices and the bar that they could get in, I mean, it's certainly time to start having discussions because, as we saw, Alabama does it, Georgia does it. We're one of the few states in the Southeast that just says, you get 20% of the vote, you're off to Washington.
Your executive committee, the state executive committee of the Republican Party has voted for that in the past. Do you expect them to revisit that issue again?
Well, I think it's entirely possible. I think we're looking at it from how best it is to produce the best quality Republican. And, when somebody gets 25% of the vote and 75% of the people are voting against their nominee, I assume, when we will probably see the same in a Nashville seat or a Memphis seat at some point in time. And Congressman Cohen, as I recall, after Congressman Ford left, I think he won with a little bit under 25% as well. So, I know that our executive committee would like to see it. I know that the political consultants would like to see it. They'd love to have one more race.
Yeah.
But, you know, this is ultimately going to be a legislative call, and let the people in Nashville decide how best to run our elections.
All right, Scott Golden, thanks. They're talking, of course, about that race out in East Tennessee where Congressman Phil Rowe is retiring. 16 Republicans on the ballot in this primary. Be interesting to see what happens. Scott, thanks so much.
All right,
Thank
thank you,
you.
Scott.
Appreciate it.
Let's switch to
All
the
right.